Right now, switch your family to T-Mobile and get 4 lines for $25 a line with AutoPay and 5G access included on America's largest 5G network. So don't wait. Get unlimited and nationwide 5G access for the whole family for just $25 a line. Visit a T-Mobile store or T-Mobile.com today.
Plus taxes and fees. Customers may notice lower speeds and further reduction if using over 50 gigs a month due to data prioritization. Video at 480p. Unlimited while on our network. Qualifying credit and 4 plus lines required. Capable device required for 5G. Coverage not available in some areas. Some uses may require certain features. See T-Mobile.com.
You are listening to New Theory Radio.
We all know what it's like to be told that there is not a place for you to be featured, yet you are young, gifted, and black. We know what it's like to be told to say there's not a screen for you to be featured on, a stage for you to be featured on. We know what it's like to be the tail and not the head. We know what it's like to be beneath and not above. And that is what we went to work with every day, because we knew not that we would be around during award season or that it would make $1 billion, but we knew that we had something special that we wanted to give the world, that we could be full human beings in the roles that we were playing, that we could create a world that exemplified a world that we wanted to see.
Hello and welcome to New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk, Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host, and this is the show we theorize on arts and pop culture. Normally, we like to start the show on a bit of a happier note, but it just wouldn't feel right considering the news that came out late Friday night that Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman passed away at the age of 43 following a 4-year-long battle with colon cancer. He had kept that battle private to himself, and again, it did catch a lot of people by surprise by Friday night when the news came out. But the tributes that have been rolling in that really have been celebrating just a fantastic actor who really brought to life not only the role of Black Panther, but as well as the role of very influential figures in music as well as sports. It truly meant a lot to the entire, I would say, industry and to the entire culture per se. And I thought it'd be very important for the first segment of New Theory Radio to really pay tribute to a wonderful man, a fantastic actor, and someone who continued to push through despite battling a severe prognosis like colon cancer. And joining me to talk about this in further detail, I have someone who is a previous guest of New Theory Radio. She has an awesome website called Candid X Cinema. She's featured on the Geekly Goods. She is also the social media strategist for the Bond Film Festival. It is our good friend, Amanda Guarragi. Amanda, thanks so much for joining us on such unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy that I'm here to honor Chadwick Boseman.
And then joining us is someone else who is very much a fan of movies and comic books and a huge, I would say, supporter of the Marvel Universe. And when I was thinking about doing a tribute to Chadwick Boseman, I figured I had to get this individual involved because they are a true fan of this actor. Actually, I think the first time I even heard of Chadwick Boseman was just through a conversation I had with my brother. So joining us, Colorblind Photography, aka Amit Nanwa. Amit, thank you so much for joining us here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on the show, man. I appreciate it. It's a sad time.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's no real format for this segment. I just thought it'd be great just to, again, pay tribute to someone who's a true giant within the movie industry. I would say for over the last 5 years, with obviously Black Panther being the standout role of Chadwick's career. And Amanda, maybe we'll begin with you. Again, I guess the first question I would probably ask is just where were you when you found out the news, and what was sort of that reaction in regards to taking this in?
Yeah, I was actually listening to the new Jaden Smith album on Spotify that dropped, and I was like, oh, this is like a good vibe. Like, it was a good night, I guess. And I was in my room, and I work with the publication Geekly Goods, and another one, Movies Matrix, and we have a group chat. So we usually send news that drops right off, like within 2 seconds, whoever finds it first. So a friend of mine posted in the group chat, and it was from Chadwick Boseman's actual Twitter account. So I said, no, that's impossible. Like, that can't be true. And then the Associated Press confirmed it. And that's when I knew, like, that's the accuracy. I'm not even joking. I don't think I bawled. Like, I was sobbing. Like, I couldn't catch my breath. Like, I was in tears because it's just it's so unexpected.
So unexpected.
And like, and he's such like a huge staple in this industry now. And he's just so like highly respected. And even like throughout like the Black Panther press tour, you got to know him. And I think that was the most beautiful thing, was that you got to see his spirit and his love for this work, and for this character. And I think especially because like so many of us are invested with comic book characters, and they hold so much weight in our hearts because we're connected to them. When an actor also appreciates the material and respects the material, we love them for that even more. So I was a mess. Like, it hit me as hard as like when Robin Williams passed away, and like even that was just devastating. But it was heavy. It was so heavy. He was such an important figure for so many people, especially like young Black children, in regards to representation. Like, it's just, it was heartbreaking. I couldn't stop crying. It was a mess that night. So
Yeah. And I think, to me, like, I equate it to just like a punch in the gut, right? Like, it's something where you almost have to, like, I did numerous double takes on it. I was like, is this real? Like, is this actually happening? And I remember seeing people drop gifs of Chadwick's performance from Black Panther, and with, you know, dead flowers or with heartbroken emojis, and just thinking like, no, this isn't real. Because again, the run that he's been on, to your point, up in like even after Black Panther, has just been amazing. Like, you actually got to see someone totally come into his own, and even the conversation around Black Panther, if you ask me, like, sure, it was a gigantic movie that really put representation at the forefront for a major comic book franchise, but I think his performance was one of the reasons why, right? Like, I think he just was the right actor for that role. Amit, when you heard the news, what was your reaction?
Crazy, man. I thought it was one of those fake Twitter stories of like someone just saying that someone's dead, right? Like, it was tough, right? I think you actually are the one that sent me the text with the article, right? So it was just hitting hard, and like, I couldn't believe it, right? Just for seeing like someone who's like been up and up in the career. He recently had that new movie drop on Netflix, The Five Bloods by Spike Lee. I haven't seen it yet, but I've been hearing good things about it.
So good.
And then I heard something how like Spike Lee mentioned how like, because like he played all these iconic figures like what's it called again? James Brown, what's it called, Jackie Robinson. Wearing the Jackie Robinson actually what's it called, 42 hat right now. Nice. To represent both of them as well, because Jackie Robinson did pass as well. And then he also played Thurgood Marshall, like a famous black. He did like civil rights for the Black community as well. Not a great film. And then he also showed up in 21 Bridges, the action film. It's a good film as well. He just was a really good talent, man. It was hard to see someone like you look up to, who's on the up and up and doing so well. And then you find out he also was battling cancer for 4 years during those roles as well.
Yeah. And that to me, and I think for everyone, was the biggest shock, right? Like, here's somebody who was a superhero, but behind the scenes was battling the battle of their life, right? Like, was like stage 3 colon cancer. Like, that is on top. Like, I think from now on, when I watch any movie that he's made since his diagnosis to now, I think you're just going to have an even bigger appreciation, knowing that he was in fighting scenes in the best shape of his life, but he had stage 3 colon cancer that was pretty much deteriorating his body during that point, right? And especially the treatment. To me, I couldn't believe it. Like, you just, again, you hold him in such high regard. You just assume that, hey, he's playing Black Panther. He is Black Panther. And to hear that he was going through that, I think was sad, but it's also really inspiring. Like, just to me, that's why I woke up yesterday and I tweeted it out that I just felt so inspired that he didn't let it stop him, and he also just kept it to himself because he didn't want to draw attention to it. Amanda, do you think that was just a perfect example of just who he was as a person?
Oh yeah, 100%. Even now that we know in hindsight, you're looking back, he would go to St. Jude's, and he would go. Exactly. There were terminally ill children who had passed away from cancer, and he would go and like check in on them and talk to them. And there was actually an interview that was circling that night, and he was talking about how these children wanted to watch Black Panther before they passed away. Yeah. And at that time, it's the fact that like he was diagnosed himself. So it just shows his strength. It shows his genuine love and kindness, not like for everyone around him, and how incredible of a man that he was. It's just, he's such a beautiful person, and you could see that in every single story that has come out about him, and like every interview now looking back at it, he's incredible. I'm even at a loss for words at this point, because there's just so much that he did that, you know, I couldn't even imagine that he could do it. So
yeah, especially when you look at his career, and it's a very like impressive acting career in regards to the roles that he's played, in regards to the movies he's been a part of. Amit, you mentioned, you know, he played Jackie Robinson. I think 42 was his standout, I would say, for his role, where people started to notice who he was. He played James Brown in Get On Up, Thurgood Marshall, like you mentioned. Like, here was a guy that was very... You can tell that when he played a role, he really wanted to play it. Like, I think that's the vibe that you get when you see him on the screen, is he's not just playing a role just to say, hey, look, I played Jackie Robinson, I played James Brown. He's like, no, these people are significant to my life. To honor them, I need to become them and be able to tell their stories. Were there any roles in particular that really stood out outside of King T'Challa, like that really you think showcase what Chadwick was good at? And maybe Amit, will begin with you.
I've seen a couple films, so I'll definitely go back to what's it called again, James Brown, his role in James. I feel like it was really an understated performance. Like, I remember it came out early, like around February, and I thought it should be like an Oscar contender for me as myself. I thought his performance was really powerful. And there's another film that came on Netflix. It was a TIFF film as well. It's called Meshes to the King or From the King. It's a smaller film, but like I thought, like the movie wasn't as good, but his performance as an actor really shines through that role as well. So he just was a talented guy, and you can see that when he picks a role, even in like his first appearance in the Civil War, when like he outshines the entire movie, man. His introduction of the character is so powerful. His way he presents himself. There's a sense where you see him as T'Challa, as coming back from a comic book, like more from a comic book background, just seeing like me waiting for someone to finally take that role of Black Panther, and he just personified that as his own and made it his own, and as well as someone you see like this is Black Panther, like it's real, right? But he's just one of those actors that he just is a great actor. Any role you put him in, and he plays any movies, and even if he's in a side role, and even if it's in a bad movie, he's just always a good actor. He's a good performer.
Amanda, Civil War was obviously where we got introduced to King T'Challa, or his variation of it. I still remember being in the movie theater, and Civil War to me is my favorite Marvel movie. Like I think that should be Avengers 2, if you ask me. But maybe that's a separate conversation. But I remember watching that, and like when you watch the trailer, the big reveal is obviously Spider-Man's in the movie. But I remember when people were watching it, people were stoked about Black Panther, and I think a lot of that had to do with the way Chadwick Boseman brought T'Challa to life. What's your thoughts on that?
In regards to how he carried himself as T'Challa, it's just the fact that Chadwick himself, he has such a regal nature that he just embodies that role of a king already in his everyday life. Like, you can see that he has that leadership within him. He's like this light, there's like a beacon of light inside him, and he knows how to carry himself. Like even something as small as like him walking, like he would have this like regal nature. And I think that's the key thing to his role as T'Challa as Black Panther, just because he carried himself that way. He was like sleek, he was suave, like, and there was so much power, and his line delivery was just amazing. There was one scene where Hawkeye's talking to him in Civil War, and like Black Panther responds like, "I don't care," and it was like the best line reading that we've like heard. He just doesn't care about Hawkeye. But yeah, Civil War was great as an introduction. I really think that in Infinity War, when you heard the music cue to Wakanda, I think that's how you knew the hype level was like, I was freaking out. When I heard the cue, I'm like, that's it. Like, we're going to the best place on earth right now. Like, he's coming, right? Yeah. So he made such an impact. But for me, like Get On Up obviously is a great film, 42, amazing film. He's made an impact, but most recently, his role as Stormin Norman in The Five Bloods on Netflix and Spike Lee's film was just astounding. It was just incredible work. It was a brilliant performance, even though it's secondary, if that's the word, but it just blew me away with how powerful he is as a performer, and he's so dedicated to the craft. And I think that's what's even more important about his entire filmography. Like you said, that he's handpicking these roles because he wants to do it justice, and I think that's so important for an artist to like care that much in this case.
Yeah, and even hearing about his relationship with Denzel Washington and the fact that Denzel paid for him to go study at Oxford while he was studying at Howard University, and Felicia Rashad obviously had a big role in that. Like, to me, like, you almost get that new generation Denzel Washington vibe from Chadwick Boseman, or you got that vibe. I hate to talk about him now in past tense, but to me, that's what I would feel when I would see him on the screen, is here's somebody who, similar to a Denzel, really became his characters. And sure, that's what an actor is supposed to do, but there's some actors that do it and some that just, do it to get by and move on. And I think Chadwick himself it seemed that he loved to transform himself. Like, he loved to really immerse and play a role. And I haven't seen The Five Bloods yet. I do need to see it. It is on my Netflix list, and I definitely will watch it now. And I actually want to do a bit of a binge because I haven't seen Get On Up either. But like that to me was something that always stood out to him, is he just had a presence on the screen. Like, you couldn't look away, right? Like, you had to see what he was going to say. His delivery was top notch. And to your point, Amanda, I was watching the Jimmy Fallon bit is going viral right now, where I remember watching that episode live, where people were praising Black Panther, and he would surprise them. Like, he had that aura to him. He had an aura, pretty much. You could see it. You could see just the prowess that he had, and how he was able to carry himself, and how that really sort of meant a lot, and showed just how serious he was about his craft. Amit, any thoughts on your end?
The sense of losing someone special, right? Like you said, the comparison to Denzel is definitely one thing, right? I feel like just in our generation, we are looking for someone to take that Denzel place, and he was up there as one of the actors to take that place as an actor, to be like as strong and be as prevalent in roles as well. But just a sense of someone just like you guys said before, he's just a unique person, and he was a good guy, right? He took his time to like see kids who were terminally ill. He took on roles. He just had the bravado of someone who really respected his craft as an actor, and was generally a good person.
What do you think his legacy is? And Amanda, we'll begin with you.
First, that he's an incredible human being. He has a beautiful soul. Like we said, that he has an amazing aura. His legacy will be the impact that he made with Black Panther. And I know that there's so many people on the internet that are just saying he's more than Black Panther. but there's nothing wrong with him being recognized for that role. We understand that he's more than Black Panther. Like, he's an incredible actor, as we've stated right now, but his legacy is going to be the entire meaning of that monumental film. Everything that went with Black Panther, like, it's more than just one of the best Marvel films. It's more than that. It's every single thing that came with that movie. The cultural impact, the representation, the Oscars that it went on to win. Like, it's such a massive film. And yeah, I think that that's going to be his legacy. It's going to be Black Panther and the impact that he made with that character. And I know that people are going to probably get upset with me saying that, because I know he's more than the character, but he's iconic. He was always iconic for his performances, but he's always going to be remembered for that. That's his legacy.
Well, one thing I did want to kind of close the segment out on is obviously, again, finding out that he had colon cancer, very unfortunate in regards to him being taken from us at age 43, and just the fact that he was battling that since 2016. There has been a lot of emphasis right now, and Amit, feel free to chime in, but Amanda, I really wanted to get your thoughts on it, being that you dabble in podcasting and other types of written outlets, where the media before he passed were talking about his appearance, talking about the way he looked, even so much as far as Chadwick would delete photos, I guess, because he didn't want the attention. Mm-hmm. Do you think, obviously with his story coming out and us now knowing what he was battling, and like, do you think that hopefully this changes a lot of that culture that exists within media, where they like to hypothesize or be like, oh, why does someone look so skinny, or what's going on with this person? Like, do you hope that it changes after this in regards to, hey, just let people just mind your business, let them deal what they need to deal with, and don't be so quick to judge someone based on their appearance?
Like you said, one can only hope in this case. When we did see him slimming down, I was one of the people that thought it was for a role, as actors do. Like, their weight fluctuates constantly. So I was thinking, okay, maybe he's getting ready for a role. That's why he looks that way. But there are cruel people on the internet. Mm-hmm. There are very cruel people on the internet. There were jokes being made that shouldn't have been made. And I just think that hopefully this does shed light on what not to do. But there are trolls on the internet, and they've also been making comments about his death. So anyways, they're doing that as well. And then that's inevitable, because there's always going to be the handful of people that are going to troll certain things on the web. So as long as you drown those people out, and we can move forward and hopefully not question people's weight, question people's appearances. It is the media, and the fact that we consume so much media all the time, and everyone wants to have an opinion and their 2 cents and drop it on Twitter for the clout, or the retweets, all that. It's a constant machine. Yeah. Unfortunately, and that's what I've seen. So I know that people do things and say things just to get attention, even if it's really, really in poor taste. But yeah, I hope that things change after this, because this is really eye-opening for people. You don't know what someone's going through, so you can't question them or even make comments that way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think this is a good lesson for anyone working in media, is not to be so quick to assume or to judge, because again, to me, I think you don't know what someone's going through, right? And I think you need to be respectful of their space, and hopefully, again, this could be an example for that. Just to close this out, any movie recommendations of his that you'd want to put out there to the audience? Maybe it's something other than Black Panther, because I think everyone's seen Black Panther. But hey, go watch it. It's a fantastic movie. I loved it. I believe it is going to be airing on TV over the next couple of days as well.
Tonight.
But anything from his catalog that maybe one movie that you recommend the audience watch to really get a sense of who Chadwick Boseman was when it came to him being an awesome actor. Maybe Amit will begin with you.
I'll definitely go with Marshall, because I feel like a lot of people haven't seen that film. Definitely really good performance from Chadwick as well, and Josh Gaston there as well. It's a really good performance. And this, I think I didn't know who Thurgood Marshall was until I saw that movie. Like, I heard things, but I didn't know. But it's a really strong performance, and it's just a really good film too. So it's on Netflix as well. So it's easy to assess for the audience as well. So like, definitely check out Marshall.
Amanda.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Five Bloods here, because that is just incredible what he does in that movie. The film is a bit long. I mean, it is Spike Lee, but it's a slow burn. It's really good. Everyone gives a great performance, and Chadwick's just absolutely brilliant in it. It's also on Netflix. That came out this year. So if you're looking for like new content, then definitely like go tune in and watch the Five Bloods, because he's amazing. He really is. You really see how dedicated he is to the craft and his characters in that one.
Excellent. Well, I wanted to thank the both of you. Obviously, this wasn't an easy conversation to have, but again, we had to pay tribute to the legend himself, Chadwick Boseman. May he rest in peace. Again, passed away on Friday at the age of 43 due to colon cancer, and we will continue to do our best to honor him. And I know there's a couple, I guess there's, I think he has another movie that's
he's in a film on the way. Yeah, it's going to be on Netflix.
So it'll be on Netflix. Yeah. So he does leave us with another performance that we'll certainly check out. But thank you again, both of you for joining us. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back with more New Theory Radio in just a few moments.
You are listening to New Theory Radio Pop Culture Panel.
And we are back here on New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk, Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host. And this is the show where we theorize on all things arts and pop culture. And it is about that time for our pop culture panel this week. And it actually came out this week. It was a study that was done by the Canadian Association of Broadcasters, saying that hundreds of Canadian radio stations and TV outlets were at risk of being closed, I would say, over the next 18 months. Obviously, this study does hit close to home with us being here on Saga 960 AM, but I thought it'd be great for the panel this week to really dissect what this could mean for the future. So I have joining me two, I would say, up-and-coming, amazing stars in the PR/media world. Two individuals that I've actually had the opportunity to work with over the last few months, and I really wanted to get their perspectives on this study and whether their generation could sort of help dictate the future of media. No pressure, but I'm just saying. We'll start with the person on my left. She is currently the digital events assistant for the for the Arts and Culture Initiative of South Asia. She's also a improv queen. Can I call you that, Mahyn?
Yes, you can. That's a little embarrassing, but that's fine.
It's okay. It's okay. You had some TV production work in your background as well, I believe. Was it with Samantha Bee?
Yeah, I interned at Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, and then I was a production assistant at Sinking Ship Entertainment in Toronto.
Oh, fancy. So it's my good friend, Mahyn Qureshi. Mahyn, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And the next person that I have joining us is another bright star. She just recently joined the Saga 960 AM crew, but she has experience working for the likes of CBC. She actually has a very awesome audio documentary that we'll definitely put a link for in our description, because I think everyone needs to really hear it. It's a fantastic and very eye-opening story about just her family experience. And we're so excited to finally have her here on New Theory Radio. Julie, you're pretty much the wizard behind the boards now, right?
At Saga, yeah, I am. Yeah.
It is our good friend, Julie Arounlasy. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Yes, I got it right. I'm so happy. But ladies, this study kind of freaked me out a little bit. Again, all three of us sort of dabbling in the media industry, whether it be here locally in Toronto or even elsewhere. It's no secret that this has been just a recurring trend within the media industry, I would say, for the last 10 years, ever since the explosion of digital mediums. But both of you have actually studied journalism in school. You've dabbled in various aspects of production on both TV and radio. And I just would love to get a bit of a temperature check across the board as to what this study really told you about the industry and how it's currently making you feel. And maybe Julie, will begin with you.
Yeah, so I actually initially heard of this news earlier this week because of Jyoti's dad, Saga 960 station manager Jyoti. He came into the room and he just like casually mentioned it. And I was like, what? So then I quickly Googled it. And then, I saw the study that came out from the CAB, Canadian Association of Broadcasters. And I mean, unfortunately, it's nothing new. I mean, this has been happening in media, Canadian media, especially among, independent and local media bracket for a long time, even before the pandemic. And even when I was in school, professors and whoever, they would always kind of keep us aware of the fact that this is a very precarious industry, and layoffs do happen all the time. So it's something to be mindful of. But with the pandemic and with COVID, it made things a lot worse financially. And at the end of the day, it's money. That is the reason why, lack of money, which is the reason why, this is happening.
Yeah, I know. I definitely agree. And it's great that you got Jyoti's dad's perspective, Jyoti, who is our station manager at Saga 960 AM, because he's been in the game for like a while, like especially when it comes to the South Asian community. He's someone that was one of the pioneers in regards to putting together local media for that community and really bringing it to life. So, I think it's again, I think it just goes to show the importance of this study, especially if someone like himself is taking notice. And again, one of the things that the study mentions is that the most vulnerable are the country's AM radio stations, as well as independent private radio and TV operations in smaller markets across the country. Mahyn, you've had experience on the production side, both in Canada and the US. Obviously, the US is exponentially a lot bigger than here in Canada. But what was your thoughts on this study when you heard about it?
Honestly, it freaked me out a little, but I kind of saw it coming because, like Julie mentioned, in journalism school, they always tell you like the market's pretty small and it's hard to get jobs in this industry in the first place. And everyone is constantly telling me that journalism and media is dying. So, and go towards marketing and go towards social media marketing because that's where you're going to find work. So hearing this doesn't really surprise me, but it is sad because it's already so hard to break into this industry. Like, we do so much unpaid internship. We do a lot of unpaid internships and a lot of unpaid work to like kind of get your foot into the door, as everyone says. So it's upsetting because it's already hard. And now it feels like it's 10 times harder to, make a career for yourself in this industry, especially as someone who's like a recent graduate. It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. Like, I think it's, especially when you're spending loads of money on your education and the hope after you graduate is to land a job in that field. It can be a bit discouraging when you see the trend. And again, I think COVID has really thrown a wrench at a lot of industries during this time, especially when it comes to mediums like radio, which radio right now, the highest listenership is typically in the car when people are taking in radio. Do you see this as an opportunity? Like, is there anything here, obviously with the study being doom and gloom, is there anything that stands out, or is there anything that you think about in regards to what the potential opportunity could be to maybe shift this curve, or be able to think about these mediums a lot differently and find ways for them to be optimal? Maybe Julie, we'll begin with you, because I know you've had experience with both the CBC and now you're at Saga 960. What are some opportunities that you think could come out of this?
Come out of this study?
Yeah, or even just coming out of this report, like based on the stats. Like, obviously it's very doom and gloom, but what do you think could be something positive, or what do you think can be done within the industry that can maybe change this direction?
So, I mean, just starting off with what we're doing right now, having these kinds of conversations, to really bring awareness to what is going on behind the scenes, especially when it comes to local and independent media in Canada. And a lot of local and independent media is also ethnic media, which is very important. It serves such a large community within that region. And, with the study saying how, a bunch of local TV and radio stations could shut down within the next 3 years, then that would mean that Canada would only have to rely on national and international media. And then, then there's a lack of local reporting, which is so important. But yeah, so like I said, having these conversations, having that awareness be out there. Also, calling on the people who have the most systemic power in this field, which is the CRTC, the Canadian government, really calling on them to, really look into who they are prioritizing and, asking them to be more equitable with who they support.
Yeah.
And also getting behind the CAB, the Canadian Associations of Broadcasters, organizations like that who are really putting in the work to, bring forth these reports and bring forth this awareness. And they're also the ones who are really calling the CRTC for real action as well.
Yeah, I love that perspective. Like, I think local reporting, you definitely hit the nail when you said that, because a place like Brampton, Mississauga, which is what we serve here on Saga 960 AM, the population is so big that one of my biggest challenges is, why don't we have more media outlets based here, right? Like, you think about all the news that comes out of both of these cities. You think about how much these cities have grown in population. If I'm the CRTC and I'm looking at areas that really need this type of coverage, this type of awareness, these are, I would look at population data. I would look at some of the gaps that exist, because I think, selfishly being from Peel region, I feel we do get grouped in a lot with Toronto because we're so close in proximity. But yeah, no, I think it's crucial. I think to your point, I think a CRTC, maybe taking a step back and looking at the general landscape and potentially trying to find ways to keep this afloat, I think is crucial, because I think, we need local media outlets more so than ever, right? Especially with everything that's going on. Mahyn, what's your thoughts?
I think a lot of, from my perspective, knowing that, jobs are not as viable for me anymore. And I feel like I like to take a more creative approach to media. Like, I like improv and comedy and that kind of stuff. So for me, I guess it's putting content out there, like on Twitter, YouTube, and just making your own platform.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to rely on other media organizations, because you can't, it's hard to get a job, one, and then it's hard to, have someone take a chance on you, I guess. But yeah, just with my friends and even the improv community, I feel like everyone's just putting out their own content, and they're making their videos are going viral, and people are getting hundreds and thousands of followers, and building that platform for themselves, which is, I think, kind of the way to go, because you can you're in charge of what you're putting out, and it's this content that you're proud of. And a lot of times it does go viral, and maybe it doesn't, but at least you're putting out your own work, and you're making sure you're still keeping that creative side to yourself. And
so you have full control of your own medium, I guess, using your own platform.
Yeah. And I think people are marketing themselves more now. So I think that's really smart and kind of the way to go.
Is that type of mentality instilled in, like, was that instilled in both of you during journalism school? Like, did they ever tell you, hey, just maybe bring out the entrepreneur in yourself and do your own thing?
Yeah, for me, definitely. We had like classes on, building your own brand and setting up your own blog and things like that. So that was definitely instilled in me.
Yeah, Julie.
Yeah, same for me. At journalism school, they really, like I said, hone it in you that you need to be the initiator when it comes to your career. And we're talking a lot about how local and independent media is very precarious, but I mean, I've worked in mainstream media, and that is also super precarious as well. I mean, I've been working for only 2 years in media, but I just got a contract at Saga.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of work, a lot of, unpaid work as well in the very, very beginning. And yeah, you really have to be a self-starter. You really have to think of yourself as like a freelancer, even if you are working like proper shifts,
Yeah. And that seems to be the norm. Like global news laid off a bunch of people recently, right? Like that made a lot of news, and I know Vice recently covered it and shared some perspective and went a bit deeper in regards to what maybe led to some of those layoffs or just some of the other challenges that organization may have been having. But it's very, like, I'm wondering, like, do you think this will discourage a new generation of journalists? Like, or do you think this might empower them to feel like they can create their own medium and really stand out?
I think I don't think you can stop people that want to go into journalism, because even when I was in journalism school, everyone was like, you shouldn't do this. Like, media is not worth it. You're not going to get a job. And even I could tell, like, my fellow classmates and stuff kind of were hearing the same stuff. But if you're passionate about media and making art and writing and stuff, you're probably going to go for it no matter what. So I hope it encourages people to keep going and trying to, bring this industry back to life, I guess. And yeah, I don't think it's going to discourage people.
Yeah, Julie, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, people who are usually in media and journalism, they go in because they're extremely passionate about the field. And, when you have that much passion, it takes a lot to really, make you back down and look at another path.
Yeah.
But I mean, I definitely, over the past 2 years, I've definitely questioned whether or not I want to stay in this field because it's so precarious and because it's so competitive. But there was just always that, I don't know, that little bit of hope that I had because I'm just so passionate about it. I mean, it's what I know. It feels like it's my life,
Yeah.
So yeah, but I do know quite a few people who have, taken their own route, starting their own podcasts, starting their own blogs, things like that, which give them so much free reign. Even if they are working for like a mainstream place on the side, they will still have their blogs. They will still have their own thing going on, because it's just something that they have full control over. It's something that they are able to give whoever without having to, go to a boss to approve,
Yeah, no, it's true. Like, I think now you're starting to see even big time media personalities across all the major networks almost have their own media side hustle, whether it's putting a lot of energy on social media or even having their own podcast or blog, right? So I think being multifaceted like that is so crucial in the industry nowadays. And yeah, I'm glad that both you touched on that. Do you think, and this might be the last question, because I personally feel that now with things opening up and again, we don't know if a wave 2 is coming. All signs seem to be pointing in that direction, and we'll have to see when schools open up if it does lead to that. Hopefully it doesn't. But obviously things are opening up. People are outdoors more. People are going to be going into the offices a lot more. There's going to be more of a routine, right? Because I feel like during the quarantine, a lot of people lacked a routine because they were working from home, and maybe that was that. Do you think that this data could change maybe after a few months based on some of the new developments that we're seeing within the quarantine or the pandemic? Or because a lot of this was alluded to even before COVID, do you think this is a trend that might continue? And Mahyn, we'll begin with you.
Yeah, I think it's gonna continue. Just because, like I said, it's pretty hard to break it into this industry, and it's like I think there might be an uprise in like people doing, like Julie said, like their own podcasts and their own creative stuff and kind of building that own platform for themselves. But I think in terms of like actual jobs with a boss and, you know, a company, I think jobs, like even before this, I'm like companies were cutting employees out and people were losing jobs. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for media for a little bit, especially in Canada where industry is so concentrated and small. I think it's going to take a while for us to kind of get our media industry booming again. Not to be pessimistic, but yeah.
No, it's a fair thought. Julie, your thoughts?
I do agree with that because like this has been a thing for a long time, even before the pandemic. But when it comes to radio, though, you know, we depend a lot on people who are, you know, listening while they're driving. And, you know, with the pandemic, obviously, a lot of people were staying home more. So there was just less traffic in general. So less people in their cars to listen to the radio. But with, you know, things opening up and people going out more and people kind of getting back into their old routine, we could see, you know, a spike go back up in audience numbers because people are going to be on the roads more. Especially during, you know, like the rush hour times. So, I mean, I do see some optimism there, but it definitely won't be like a 180 when you know, people go back to normal, right? It's definitely going to be possibly a slow rise, or it could be, you know, a slow rise and then back down, back up and down, like you.
Or it could just be steady, right? Just kind of stays moderate as well.
You really can't know until, you know, the time comes.
No, this is going to be an interesting trend to watch. Like this entire, like I'm curious the next time that the CAB, right? Is that what it is?
The
CAB. Sorry. Like I'd be curious to see what a study looks like a year from now. I'm sure they'll commission something sort of, you know, post pandemic or post the first wave to show how things are netting out now that things are opening up. But yeah, I think the biggest opportunity for me for a lot of media outlets is how do you evolve? You know, how do you maintain what you're doing, but how do you keep using new platforms? How do you keep being creative with your existing platforms? I know selfishly here at Saga 960 AM, we're always thinking through that. Maybe Julie, you have more information than I do, but yeah, I think this is going to be a story to watch for sure. And again, I do, even though it's this study is very, you know, doom and gloom, I do see some optimism for sure. And I think even having two young people like yourself who have studied this and are still interested in these mediums, I think goes to show that the possibilities for this could be endless. So that's a good way to kind of end this conversation. Thank you both for joining me here on New Theory Radio. This is your opportunity now to plug whatever you want to plug, and Mahyn, maybe we'll begin with you.
Follow me on Instagram at NYHAMM. That's pretty much it. Follow me. I post like sometimes funny videos with my friends that we make and things like that. So
awesome.
Check it out.
Yeah, go check out Mahyn's Instagram. It's always popping. Julie, what about you? You, like I said, you are like the new addition to the Saga 960 AM family, even though I think it's been a couple months now. But what like I know you work on a bunch of different things. This is your opportunity to promote it.
So actually, this week on September 1st, Tuesday, September 1st, I believe, my radio doc that you were mentioning before, it's actually gonna be airing on CBC Radio 1.
Oh, excellent.
So that will be at I think 7:30 p.m. So I mean, for those who are interested in listening to audio documentaries, then that will be on the air. This documentary came out back in April, but it's finally like actually going to be on the air because back then it was only COVID news and nothing else.
Yeah.
So now that is, you know, kind of dying down a bit. The doc project, the show that I did the doc for, now they're airing all the past docs that they couldn't. So that will be Tuesday, September 1st at I think 7:30 p.m.
Awesome.
And yeah, if you want to follow me on the socials, I'm not that interesting on social media, but I guess Twitter, if you want, it's just my name. You'll see it somewhere, my name, how to spell it.
Yeah, we'll put all that information in the podcast description. And yes, congrats again on the audio doc. I listened to it. I think it's a very eye-opening story. And again, thanks for sharing that. You know what? And that's a challenge I'll put out to you is, hey, I'd love to hear more audio docs on Saga 960 AM. So Jyoti and Praveen, if you're listening, get Julie working on a couple.
Maybe I can pitch something.
Why not? Well, yes, thank you both for joining me here on this week's Pop Culture Panel. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to have more New Theory Radio in just a few moments.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. NTR Spotlight.
And we are back here on New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk, Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host, and this is the show where we theorize on arts and pop culture. And it is about that time where we do our NTR Spotlight for the week, which is our segment where we profile an artist or a creative really pushing the scene forward, not just here locally, but globally as well. And I'm really excited about our next guest. She is a Toronto-based R&B singer, songwriter, producer, composer, and DJ with a sound that is sultry yet raw with emotion. She's been compared to the likes of Aaliyah, Her, and Sabrina Claudio, but somehow she's still been able to find a place in her own distinct category. She is Cardinal Leger's finest. It is my good friend, Joya. Joya, thanks so much for making time for us here at NTR.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. That was a great intro.
Well, I'm just reading your bio, so.
Oh, well, no, that last little tidbit at the end. That was a nice little cherry on top.
I just thought I would expose you because, again, I went to Turner Fenton in Brampton, so I'm very. Whenever I find out someone else went to a rival high school, I always like to call them out.
Yeah, man, gotta bait me out like that. All right.
But Joy, I gotta ask you from the beginning because actually, first and foremost, congrats on two amazing performances. One being for Culture Calls Weekender last week with the City of Brampton, and one actually being this past Thursday for Meta Arts Fest. So congrats again on killing both of those.
Oh my God, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to play both. Like I honestly just thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you.
Well, let's go all the way back. I would love to know how you got your start in music.
So it actually started, my parents would probably tell people that I had been singing when I came out of the womb. But everything kind of really started when I was around 6. My parents had always taken me to church when I was younger, and this one church had a children's choir. So I was like, I think I want to try it out. And my parents have always been really cool throughout my entire life. They've never really forced me to do anything. They've always just kind of been supportive of things that I want to try, given that, I'm going to put 100% of my effort into it. Like, it's something that I truly want to do. So instead of, putting me in music lessons right away, they were like, you know what, why don't you try the children's choir, see how you like it, and see if this is something that you truly want to do. And then once I started singing in the choir, everything just went from there. Like I was singing all the time, and then finally it got to, I was around 9 or 10 when I actually started taking vocal and piano lessons. Because I figured, I'm going to sing. I love singing, but my dad kind of told me, you should pick up an instrument to maybe accompany yourself one day if it's something that, you ever decide to do, like if you ever want to perform. So I was like, okay, it's cool. I would love to learn an instrument anyways. And I'm really glad I did because, knowing about chord progressions and note theory and everything like that, it's helped me tremendously. But yeah, I was just kind of doing my thing, learning piano and vocal. And then one of my teachers, we're still great friends to this day. And she's been one of the biggest influences on me, I believe, when I was kind of at that pivotal stage. She told me, during one lesson, she asked me, she's like, have you ever tried writing your own music? And I was like, at this point, I think I was like 12 or 13. And I was like, no, I've never tried doing that. I'm 13, like I'm so young. What do I have to write about? She's like, it doesn't matter. Just try writing a song. So I started to try writing and everything. And then I started picking it up, and honestly, I don't even remember what my first songs were about because who has problems when they're 12 years old? Not me. I was a very happy kid.
It's probably like, I want to stay up till midnight.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go out without holding my mom's hand. No, but, and then then I started, writing. I started getting more into it and doing it a little bit more consistently. And then I got to high school, and everybody knows that everything is the end of the world when you are in high school. So I started writing more and more. And originally my songs were kind of this, Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swifty kind of vibe. And at that point I had decided that, okay, I want to be a performer. I want to be a singer. And I had envisioned this picture of myself on a stage, kind of just either just the guitar and I or just the piano and I, and it was going to be that kind of like, singer-songwriter type vibe. And then I went to my first EDM show when I was 16, and then I fell in love with electronic music, and everything's just kind of spiraled from there, and now I make R&B.
Well, that's that's my next question for you, because I find that to be the most intriguing part of your story is when you hear your music, when you really take it in, those comparisons that you get to Aaliyah, to her, to Sabrina Claudio, like I can see where those come from. But the fact that you started at 16 with electronic music, you got to tell us more. Like how did that come about, and how like just what was that start like?
So I still remember, like I will always remember this night as if it was yesterday, because EDM is a very kind of, it's gotten very mainstream, but it used to be something that was very, very underground. So, a lot of people that kind of grew up in the EDM scene, I felt, had this strong connection to it from an early point, because they had gone to all the underground shows. They had been at kind of like all of these small, dingy clubs being, sardined in there, just listening to their favorite artists and DJs. But for myself, being 16 when I went to my first show, I couldn't really, I wasn't of age to go to any of these nightclubs in Toronto where kind of the scene may have started out. So my first EDM show was Swedish House Mafia at the Rogers Center. And it was on February 22nd. I seriously remember this day as if it was yesterday. And everything that could have went well in that night went perfectly well. We had bought tickets in the seating area, but security had given us floor wristbands by accident. And then we were like, oh my God, where are we going to put our jackets? Because 16 going to your first concert, and it's in the middle of February, we didn't think about coat check and everything. And we're like, oh my God, we don't want to have to go all the way back upstairs.
Was that show a rave?
Well, it was like a rave in very big concert theater, like an arena. So it's like now that when I got older and I went to actual quote unquote raves and like festivals and everything, I was like, I wouldn't really consider that a rave, but technically speaking, yeah.
I feel like my wife went to that show.
Maybe. And anyways, just like everything that could have worked out just worked out that night. And I just remember being on the floor and being in the audience, and just the atmosphere in there and the energy was like something I had never experienced in my entire life. And now in retrospect, you know, I look back and I still listen to Swedish House Mafia because their songs, they were just, yes, they were producers, but they worked with so many great vocalists and artists, and there's a lot of their songs were just so well written. Like, oh my God, Don't You Worry Child. I feel like that was an anthem for so many people. And just, I listened back to it just lyrically, and I was like, this is such a well-written song. And yes, it was played in that kind of, you know, party or rave atmosphere, if you will, but it's such a well-written song, and so many of their songs were like that. But, you know, I just, that night, I felt the energy, and I just looked at, and I think it was also because, you know, Swedish House Mafia, one of the biggest electronic acts at the time, and I think, you know, will go on to be legendary still as that title. But yeah, and just, you know, playing in a big arena and the production value that was there as well, everything, just seeing it, something clicked in my head, and I was like, okay, I want to be a DJ. I want to learn how to DJ. I want to, you know, dive deeper into electronic music and like how is this made, you know, because from like to that point, I had just kind of been exposed to music in a way that was completely raw and acoustic. Like my means of creating music was just sitting at a piano or with my guitar, because I had picked up guitar by myself by that point as well. And that was my means of creating music. And then I went to this electronic show and I was like, wow, music production. Because still when I was like, I hadn't been into a studio. Like I had, but it was just for like some rough demos, and still it was extremely acoustic. So yes, I had been exposed to, you know, the recording process, but never in an electronic sense. So that now I'm, you know, I literally went home, and the next day I was looking into electronic music production and, you know, like what softwares people use and with like synthesizers, like what are these? And then, you know, the difference between like analog and digital. And I'm like, oh my God, you can go on this software now, and it's like, you don't need an analog synth. You don't need this big bulky piece of equipment. It's like, I have all of these digital synths on this production software. And then it was a means of, you know, like, it was a matter of, okay, how do I combine these synths? And then drum patterns. And my first, I mean, I think with like a lot of music producers or even just vocalists, when they want to learn how to record, it's GarageBand, right? So like probably a lot of people, I started on GarageBand, and they had some native synths in there and just like super baseline, but I started dabbling around with it. And drum patterns, I mean, I'm not a drummer at all. Do I have rhythm? Absolutely. But creating a drum pattern for me is probably still to this day one of the most difficult things, because it doesn't come to me innately. But, you know, I started going through GarageBand and just making these. If I went and pulled back my first GarageBand project, I'd look at it and be like, oh my God, this is so basic. But at that time, to me, you know, experiencing it firsthand, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm making a masterpiece right now. Like this should be on the radio right now. But after that, it was then Logic Pro, and that's when I started gaining, you know, a deeper understanding of synthesizers and all of these plugins, because Logic itself is a pretty powerful program. And obviously, you know, some of the plugins you had to go and buy or get your friends to let you borrow it. I'm just going to say that.
The key word in that is borrow.
Yes, borrow completely legally. And then I slowly started working with another collaborator and a couple people kind of in the electronic sphere that I was kind of hanging around with at that time. They were like, "Oh, have you tried Ableton?" Like, I use Ableton. I love it. And like Ableton's like the best program, and everybody was just, going off about Ableton. Like it was this just like queen dripping in gold. And I was like, all right, they had a free trial. I'm like, let's try Ableton. I have not looked back since. Ableton is such a great program, and it's so powerful, and it's what I use to produce to this day. I am not sponsored, but if I'm just saying, I'm here. But yeah, from then on, it was just learning everything to do with electronic production, and then everything kind of changed, but electronic music is what taught me the quintessential rules of production, and just basic elements that I needed to learn on how to produce a song. So that's how I got started with everything. That's what taught me music production.
What was that transition like from going from electronic to R&B? Because I'm glad you really went through your journey with how you almost became a student of electronic music, and it really allowed you to appreciate just what it meant to put together a song or even a composition. But when did you decide, you know what, I think I'm going to take what I've learned and put it towards another type of music?
So that was coming to a point when I had kind of been making when I first got into electronic music, a lot of it was house music. So I found that because I was taking so much time to learn all of, these technical aspects, I had kind of taken a break from songwriting and even singing a lot, right? So before that, I had been songwriting constantly and singing constantly. And then, now I was spending a lot of time on this computer to learn these technical elements of music production. So then I kind of came to a point where I was like, okay, I was making a lot of house music. And then to me, just as I was creating it, and I feel like, it's a bittersweet, it's kind of bittersweet being a producer sometimes, because by the time the song is done, you show it to your friends, and they're like, oh my God, this is great. Like, this is amazing. I love this song. And by the time you show it to them, you're like, oh my God, I hate it because I've listened to the same loop like 50 million times. But, producing house music, just everything it started getting a bit redundant to me personally. And I feel like because of all of the influences that I had, earlier on in my life, just kind of subconsciously, and coming from such a strong songwriting background, to me, just, making the same structure of house music and, just that structure, it started becoming redundant. And then I kind of took a step back and I realized, oh my God, when's the last time I wrote a song? Right? When I was doing electronic production, a lot of it, Swedish House Mafia was an exception, and even people like Avicii working with songwriters themselves and creating, these songs with these fuller structures. But a lot of the songs that I was listening to as well were just kind of these like one-liner hooks that's really popular in electronic production. So to me, I took a step back and I was like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And my dad will look at me every single time, and because the minute I told him that I wanted to learn house music and being a DJ and everything, he's like, are you sure that's what you want to do for the rest of your life? And I'm like, yes, Dad, house music forever. And then I turned 20, 21, and I was like, okay, maybe this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. And he just looked at me, and he didn't even have to say I told you so, but I was like, I get it. It's fine. But no, for me, it was really, I missed songwriting. Like, I missed telling stories through my music, and I missed getting that emotional response from people, not just through sound, but through lyricism. So for me, it was just, I started, going through all of my older music libraries and listening back to, you know, the songs that I used to listen to when I wanted to be inspired, and my earlier influences that like my dad used to play for me that I used to listen to when I was younger, and that I was slowly falling into as well when I was coming around that age. You know, I was middle of university. I was finding myself as an individual. I was maturing a lot, just kind of like coming into and being comfortable with myself as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at that and I was like, what do I really want to make? And I was like, I think I need to take a break from production now and just find out what I want to do sonically. Like, what is the message that I want to deliver to people when they listen to my music? Like, what do I want to, how do I put this? It's like, how do I want others to perceive me? Not in a way that was like, I need everybody to love who I am as an artist, because that's not what music is. Like, the reality is everybody loves different types of music. So it wasn't how do I make everybody like me, but it was like, how do I deliver my most authentic self to, you know, a group of people. And to me, that was telling stories through lyricism again. So I started writing songs, and it was wild, because songwriting is like a muscle. If you don't work it, if you don't flex it, it's going to slowly weaken, and you have to but the muscle memory is there.
Yeah.
It just like, it needs to be worked, right? So then I tried, like, I sat down at my piano and I was like, man, I used to write songs in like 20-30 minutes when I was 14, and now it's taking me 2 hours to try to just write like one verse and one chorus. And I'm like, what happened? So then it was just I kind of stripped away a lot of the electronic production, and I stopped, you know, placing myself in this box of like house music, because I was like, oh my god, I have to write songs to this house music structure. You know what I mean? Like, everything has to be kind of around this structure, around this sound. And I was like, why am I placing myself in a sonic box when that is not essential to the message that I want to deliver? I'm like, I should be focusing on my lyrics and, you know, building elements of surprise and calmness and, you know, electricity in these songs. And that's what I should be focusing on. So I started songwriting again. And the more I started songwriting, I noticed that I was falling a little bit more into this kind of R&B sound. So I was like, okay, I guess this is what I'm falling into. Let me try this. And then around that time is kind of when I met one of my closest collaborators, Hamlet. Well, not met. We go like way, way, way back, but we kind of reconnected, and I kind of showed him, you know, some of the music that I was working on. And yes, I was focusing on songwriting, but then at that point as well, I had learned all of these elements of music production. So now I was starting to put that into my music, and I was starting to make R&B with whatever techniques that I had learned. So we kind of showed each other our music, and then from then on, you know, he sent me a couple tracks, and I sent him a fully written song the next day, and he was like, okay, like, I really, really want to work with you. And we've been working together ever since, which is probably going to be about 3.5 years now ish, almost 4 maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd definitely say, because I had at that point, I wouldn't even say I was as strong as a songwriter as I feel I am at this current point in time, but I was a much stronger songwriter, and he was able to fill in the weaknesses that I had when it came to, you know, full music production, because he has that gift of being able to hear what needs to be added to create a fuller song. And that's in terms of, you know, like, it could be the smallest little background synth that makes the biggest difference. And he's an amazing, like, yes, I took classical piano lessons, but he's just innately like amazing at keys. He can throw in some bass, he can throw in some guitar, like he can also, you know, throw in a drum line. So it's just like, he has all these talents and was able to fill in the weaknesses that I had. And we just also really complemented each other, because as much as our musical ears were different, they were so much the same that, like, it's weird how many times we've finished each other's thoughts when it comes to a song, or like he's thinking something and I had kind of taken it home and produced it, and then I brought it back to the studio. He's like, wait, did I do that? And I was like, no, I did that. He's like, bro, yo, I was literally just thinking of doing that. So it's, yeah, as much as we're different and we're able to bring different tastes and perspectives to a piece of music, we're still like everything we kind of envisioned for the track was the same. So I think meeting him and working with him around that time was quintessential to my development as an artist. And then from then on, you know, I've been able to meet so many other people that we've also been able to work with together. And just kind of, I think one of the biggest takeaways I got from this was being open to collaboration, because at one point I was not. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of when I had that mindset of, oh my God, I want to be this like girl DJ. Because at that point as well, everybody, it was such a male dominated industry, and females are like really starting to break through right now. But again, that's a whole different conversation. But I had this in my head that, oh, I want to be, you know, this like one of the only female DJs, and I want to be able to say that I produce all of my own music, and I was the writer, and I was this, and I was that, and everything was kind of so self-centered that I was so closed-minded to the idea of collaboration. And in retrospect, I'm like, you know, but you're young, and when you mature a little bit and you start to open your eyes to so many other possibilities, it's kind of like collaboration is at the heart of anything artistic, really, because like it really takes a village to bring any project to the greater population. So it was just like when I started opening my eyes to collaboration, and when I started meeting all of these people and just openly working with them, even if we weren't going to get a finished product at the end of the day, it's just allowing yourself to open your eyes to all of these different people's like perspectives and everything. And I think that really makes you grow as an individual artist as well, because it just like it broadens your horizons. And I feel like experiencing as many things as you possibly can as an artist can only benefit you.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. NTR Spotlight.
Necessary to kind of share that journey. And if you ask me, I think for you to understand the importance of collaboration at such a young age, like there's people that are just realizing that at my age, right? And I'm in my early 30s, and it's something that when you're young and the world is your oyster, and you really want to do what you can to really take any and every opportunity and really put yourself out there and be able to look like, hey, I'm a Jack or Jill of all trades. Yeah. It's very easy to get lost and be selfish. And I think it's fantastic that when you linked up with Hamlet, like you realized just that importance of collaboration, because it's certainly doing you well right now, if you ask me, when it comes to what's been going on with Joya and just how you've been able to really take advantage of a lot of opportunities that you've been given. And, with the, with the piano and singing lessons and the experience in the choir to jumping into electronic music to this journey of finding yourself and it sort of leading you down this path of R&B. How would you describe your style of music?
Oh my God. It's definitely, okay, so if you had to put it in one genre, I definitely say it is R&B, but there's a lot of jazz influence, and sometimes there's a little bit of hip hop in there. It's just kind of this conglomeration of, all right, yeah, I definitely say it's R&B soul jazz. That's kind of what I'd label it as, because as much as me growing up, I used to write with a lot of just major or minor chords. And then when I was older, I discovered what major and minor 7 chords were, which is, you know, traditionally a jazz progression. And as soon as I discovered jazz chords, I was like, I cannot play a major or minor chord without a 7 on top. Like, it sounds incomplete to me. And a lot of major, just regular major and minor chords are used in, you know, a lot of popular like pop song productions and things like that. But as soon as you add the 7 to me, like it hits a little differently. You know what I mean? And to me, that opened up so many possibilities. And so that's kind of where those progressions come from. But then I definitely say it's written with, sometimes it's written with a little bit of, I don't want to call it this, but it's written with a little bit of a pop song structure, but then it's brought back with kind of like this grounding soul that came from a lot of my earlier influences. And just like the combination of everything, it definitely falls into that R&B umbrella. So yeah, it's just a combination of everything. But at the end of the day, it's just music that I love to make. Like, all of these sounds and all of these progressions and all of these lyrics are things that are coming from a very genuine place inside of me. Like, I always tell myself, if I feel like I'm trying too hard to write a song, it's probably something that's not genuine.
Yeah.
So that's
a good
kind of
that's a good check for yourself. I like that.
Yeah. So.
2 projects that really got you noticed was the EP with Hamlet, Purple, and then earlier this year you launched your own project, Genesis. How significant were both of those records?
So the one with Hamlet was great because it allowed me to, because it was a collaborative project, there were a lot of songs on there that I wouldn't have released by myself, just because I feel like they may have strayed too far from, you know, what I really wanted to portray as an artist. But when I released them collaboratively with Hamlet, it made so much sense because, again, as I was saying before, as much as our musical ears are different, we share a lot of the same visions. So it kind of took my somewhat more modern R&B sound and a lot of his, you know, grounding acoustic raw elements that he's so good at adding in. And we just basically combine those two things like equally, because I mean, when Hamlet produces for me, he kind of takes a lot more of the sound that I want to have, and he kind of like undertones it with what he's strong at. But then when we did this collaboratively, we just equally put all of our best strengths into each song, and it showed 2 different sides of music that came together so well, which was awesome because there were a lot of songs on there that I really liked, but I may not have wanted to release solo. So it really gave an opportunity, I think, for people to see multiple sides of both of us, and for people to see, you know, like, he's not just a producer, like he's really good at song structures and stuff as well. And then for me, it was just like, oh, you know, she's not just a songwriter, like she also dabbled in a lot of elements in production in this collaborative project. So that was really cool. And then Genesis is probably the project that I am most proud of to this point, because it kind of happened at the time where I don't think you're ever done soul searching. Like, I think you're learning new things about yourself all the time. But it came at this point when I had finally figured portray sonically. Like, this is what I know my sound is, and this is what I love to make, and I'm finally writing full songs that I'm happy with. And every single song on that project, I felt just showed a different aspect of me as an artist. And then when it all came together, I just felt like from top to bottom, I'm like, I feel like people can listen to each song on this album and get, a sense of this is what Joya sounds like and this is who she is. But every single song on there is so different that they get kind of like a different look into who I am. So yeah, I was just really proud of how that project came about and all of the wonderful people that I got to meet and work with, who are still basically all of them close collaborators to this day, who are working on some really, really awesome stuff that I hope will come out soon. But
and we hope it comes out soon.
but yeah, that project was really special to me. So it was really significant in the point that, like, I was delivering, who I was, like that authentic message, or that authentic, portrayal of myself that I was talking about earlier. I was like, this is the first project I feel that has genuinely done this from top to bottom, because my first 3-song EP, which I dropped like top of 2019, Legends, that was my first kind of released project into the world, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited. But it was dabbling in a little bit of hip hop and everything, and I was starting to become more comfortable with my songwriting. But with Genesis, it was like so many different things had fallen into place, and I was so much more confident in the message and the sonic vibe and just everything.
That's awesome. No, and both projects are phenomenal. And the one thing I did want to ask, from your performance at Meta this past Thursday, you covered Daniel Caesar's Blessed, and you mentioned that's one of your favorite songs. Who are some of your influences?
Oh my God, that could be another long-winded question. But when I was younger, again, I kind of forgot about these things. I got so into electronic music, but when I was younger, my dad was constantly playing music, like constantly. He was singing to me all the time. Like, it was just, music was something that we just always shared together. And I would always hear him playing like Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, a lot of those, earlier, like Bill Withers. Oh my God. And then also some jazz, like a huge influence for me that still comes into a lot of music that I play, bossa nova. Man, I grew up, like, my parents had this bossa nova compilation album. We would play it. Some of my fondest memories, like, I just remember sitting in our backyard, sun was setting, and we would just listen to that album from start to finish. Like, there are so many songs that just resonated with me so much, and I think it just sat with me subconsciously for so many years, because it's such a wild thing. And this is another reason of why I love music so much. It's just like, it affects you in so many different ways that you don't even know, and just like, it sticks with you. Like, I could hear a song that probably came out in 2000 that I really liked at that time, and I could probably still recite it word for word. Like, how does that, like, if I haven't listened to it since 2000, I could still probably sing it to you word for word. And it's like, it's wild to me how that happens and how it can affect you. But yeah, so bossa nova growing up, huge influence. And now that I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, maybe that's why I love major minor 7 chords, and just the regular ones were too basic for me, because, well, but yeah, so that was definitely early influences. And then I'd say, let's see, I wrote a list down because I was like, I feel like this is going to be a question. All right.
I love the prep.
So, yeah, man, I got it. Like, sometimes I'm like, you know what? I feel like I'm going to be asked about influences, and I was right. So, Alicia Keys.
Oh, yes. I definitely got that vibe from you on Thursday at Meta with the synth.
So when it's just like keys and vocals, she was probably, because I grew up basically, yeah, wanting to be like an Alicia Keys. Like, it was always her and the piano, and I was like, hey, this is me and the piano, so my girl. And her songs were just, again, just listening to all her songs back, they were written so well. And that's the one thing now that, because I've kind of worked so hard to craft songs around telling stories, it's like I can go back and listen to songs, and when you just strip everything back and you listen to things lyrically and you're looking at the story that this person is telling you, it's just kind of like, that is so amazing how this person put all of that into poetry. And it's just like saying this to you. And that was something that Alicia Keys was so good at. Like, all of her songs were just so well written, and she's just an amazing musician, just, you know, from top to bottom. So Justin Timberlake was another huge one. Oh my God, Justified, like early 2000s, JT, Justified.
Classic album. Classic.
Oh my God, I was literally just with some friends the other day, and somebody was like, oh man, I've never listened to Justified. I'm like, dude, Senorita, Rock Your Body, like, excuse me, what? I linked into that album so fast. But yeah, early Justin Timberlake, such a good album. And then I'd say for more recent influences, definitely people like her, Snow Allegra, that have been kind of in, you know, that R&B sound. And for me, actually, a big influence, you know, electronically, obviously, a big one, Swedish House Mafia, Avicii, may he rest in peace. He was so good at, again, crafting stories, like working with so many songwriters and so many amazing artists that were able to, you know, fill those electronic productions with just like the message that they did. He was definitely a big influence. And then when I started moving into R&B, I definitely say the first person that kind of influenced that was Flume. So Flume for me was kind of like, he was the first electronic music producer, because up to that point, any electronic producer or electronic artist that I had listened to, they were all house music artists. So for me at that point in my head, I was like, oh, electronic music equals house music. But then when I started listening to more people like Flume, the first time I heard a Flume song, I was like, this is electronic production, but it's not house music. And he was just doing, and he still does, he was just doing so many different things with electronic music. It kind of opened my eyes to, wow, something can be electronic and something can be R&B. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And this was way before the huge, you know, OVO R&B wave took over Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now pretty much everything is that modern synth R&B production, right? But when I was listening to Flume, like back in the day, I remember hearing the first song I heard by Flume, I remember this, was his remix of You and Me by Disclosure. And that to me is one of the greatest remixes, because if you listen to the original song, it's like night and day. There's no remnant of the original song other than the vocal, which still he completely changed. And
never heard that one. Like You and Me by Disclosure is a fire track, but I should definitely check out the Flume remix.
Oh my God, the Flume remix is gonna blow your mind. Like he put some synths in there, but the biggest thing, he has these strings, like these violin strings that he just, oh my God. And then I saw this live orchestral covered version and I was like, bro, what is going on? It's wild. But yeah, if you can, definitely check out that remix, because if you know the Disclosure track, then it's just gonna like turn you right on your heels. And for me, I heard it backwards. I heard the Flume version, which then introduced me to, okay, who's this Disclosure? Because I was like, I want to hear what the original track is. And then once I discovered Disclosure, that was like a whole different ballgame in itself.
Oh, their new album's fire. I just been listening.
Oh my God.
It is so good.
I played it like at least 5 times through all the way already.
Yeah, it
It's
is
so good.
It is amazing. Actually, I think that's a great segue to one of my last questions.
Yeah.
Who's your dream collaboration? Either
Right
artist or
there.
producer? Oh,
Right there.
Disclosure?
Disclosure. Yeah.
Really,
I say
eh?
yeah, somebody actually just asked me this the other day and I was like 150% Disclosure.
That would be
Just because
awesome.
yeah, and like I mean I've listened to all of their albums and not only have they kind of been an influence, but I think also just like the UK, there's something different in their water over there because like
Yeah.
the music that is coming out of the UK is wild. Like it is so good. But you know, other than that, it's just Disclosure, their ability, like they're both artists and songwriters, and even in some of their earlier albums they did vocals as well themselves, right? So it's just like they're such gifted musicians, and I saw them when they came to Toronto. I want to say it was maybe 3-4 years ago, and it is to this
Was that
day
the
one of
outdoor
the
show?
yeah, Echo
Yeah.
Beach.
Yeah, I was there
Yeah.
too.
Oh my god, like to this day
It
it
was
is one of
amazing.
one
Amazing.
of the best shows I've ever been to. It was one of those nights where like weather was good, and
Yeah.
that's a good night in itself because like
The
weather can
DJ
be really
Premier opened
shoddy.
up, which was sick.
Yeah, 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 I
Which
know.
was so good.
But then just seeing them up there and bringing this, live element of electronic music to then a performance, because again, when you go see producers, a lot of times they're DJing a set, but here was Disclosure and they have all of their instruments with them, and then they brought out a couple vocalists to sing live, and I'm like, it was just so perfectly done. Like, yeah, to this day, like it just hit me in a different type of way. That's all I can say, and I still remember it, and it was one of the best shows that I've ever seen. And just listening to their music, as much as they're producers, as much as they are artists, as much as they are songwriters, as much as they are collaborators with so many different artists, and I just feel like they have this innate ability to bring out the best in every artist that they work with when bringing them onto a track with them. Like that new Birthday with Sid and Kehlani,
Oh, fire.
their voices just
Yeah.
melt so well together. And it was, and even Khalid, I was watching an interview with him, and when he went in to do his track with them, he was saying, I wanted to come out with this house music production, and then they showed me it was for talk, right?
Mhm.
And he's like, they showed me the track, and I didn't get it. Like I was thinking that I was going to come out of this with a house song, right? And here they are showing me this like 100 BPM track, and I didn't get it. And then they started kind of singing the vocal, and he's like, it clicked right away.
Yeah.
So I feel like they just have this ability to bring so many different styles, and with this new album they were experimenting with so many other worldly sounds. Like there were a lot of right.
I love it.
So it was just like combining all of that, but still being, I think one thing that I admire with them is they're still always genuine. Like whatever song I hear by them, I'm like, this is still so authentic to who they are. So yeah, I would absolutely love to work with them.
Yeah, even
Manifesting it.
Hey, just speak it out to the universe. I'm a firm believer. I've done stuff. I've said stuff like that, and it's happened. So I'm sure it'll happen for you sooner than later,
Hope
Joya.
so.
And yeah, like I love Disclosure because I just find them to be such a throwback to just the good old days of house music. Like, I remember hearing their first album and just being amazed. I was like, wow, people actually still make music like this. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
And it's not underground, and it became mainstream, and they haven't lost a beat. And I even love the soul samples that they're using on this new record.
Oh yeah, that's it's one of my favorite things ever. And yeah, just as you said, as much like they've become mainstream, but they still haven't lost touch with who they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just have one more question for you, Joya, and this has been an awesome conversation. Thanks so much for just opening up and letting us know just some more details regarding your journey and just where it's taken you. And now I would like to find out where you'd like to go. Like, what does the future hold?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Well, first of all, to respond to that, thank you for having me. It's been my absolute pleasure to, have this conversation with you. But my future, I mean, everything is kind of right now, given the current climate, everything is kind of in limbo. But my future, ideally, I've had these couple performances at home, which have been amazing, and I'm so grateful for them. But what I truly miss is, performing for people and, having that genuine connection, just like locking eyes with somebody while you're singing this song and just seeing and feeling it, feeling them emotionally connecting to it. And I think that's honestly, that is what I get the most out of doing this. It's like, yes, I have those moments in the studio where, or even just when I finish writing a song and I get that aha moment or that instance of euphoria where I'm like, oh my God, I just wrote this and I'm absolutely in love with this. And I'm so happy with the message that I was able to put into, everything just clicks and you're so happy with what you've just created. But there's nothing that compares to then being able to perform that to an audience and have that same euphoric moment, but then share it with all of these people. So for me, I think, my future, as much as it'll involve being locked up in a studio and songwriting and singing, and although the state of concerts is very, very unsure right now, I have faith that everything will soon return back to normal and that my future will include a lot of performances and a lot of connecting with people. And, I think just being at the shows and what used to be, being at the shows and talking to a lot of these people firsthand and just getting them to share their experiences or how a certain song connected with them, to me, it's always been rewarding. Because you never really know how your music is going to be interpreted. And I think it's beautiful that it can be interpreted by so many people in so many different ways. And I hope that's what my future will include a lot more of.
Well, we will definitely be paying attention to that. And again, we're so grateful that you've been able to make time for us here.
Oh my God, no, thank you.
If any of the listeners want to check out your music or want to connect with you online, what is the best way?
Yeah, man, hit me up. I'm super friendly. I will always say hi at Joya Sound on all social channels. That's JOYIA Sound. And then if you want to listen to some of my tracks, you can find me on Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, everywhere. You can just search up Joya and I'm your girl.
Honestly, Joya, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you again for coming on New Theory Radio. That's Joya. Go check her out across all streaming platforms. And yes, do remember the name, because I'm sure you'll be hearing her very soon on a Disclosure song. I'm just gonna say it out loud for you.
Just put it out there. There we go. We're both manifesting now. No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing talking to you. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to have more New Theory Radio here on News Talk, Saga 960 AM.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. Theory Radio.
Welcome back to New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk, Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa, I am your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things arts and pop culture. So we have a big announcement regarding the show moving forward. Saga 960 AM is gearing up for a busy fall season, and what that actually means for NTR is that we are staying put on Sundays, but we are actually changing our time and our format. So New Theory Radio, as of September 13th, can be heard at between 11 to 12 p.m. Sunday mornings for 1 hour. Yes, a special condensed version of NTR, which I am excited about. I do feel with an hour, there is a lot more ability to be creative in being able to pack that 1 hour with a lot of content, a lot of quality content. So I'm looking forward to that. But yes, the change is being made as of September 13th. We will have more details available across all of our social platforms. But think of New Theory Radio as being a part of your weekend brunch plans. So while you're enjoying your Caesar, while you're enjoying your Eggs Benny, while you're really taking in that French toast, New Theory Radio can be that companion piece for you each and every Sunday morning as you socialize for brunch with your social circle. You can tune in and hear some arts and pop culture talk because, hey, we all love brunch, especially me. I love brunch, and maybe one day I'll do an episode live while eating brunch. Maybe that's an option. Who knows? But the other great news about New Theory Radio as of September 13th is we are going back to being live. So, spoiler alert, for the last few months that we've been doing this show since the start of the pandemic, a lot of it, majority of it, has been pre-recorded days leading up to the release. So now that things are opening up and we have a safety protocol in place at the Saga 960 AM studio, we will be back in the studio on September 13th and onwards, and I'm looking forward to it. I do miss doing the show live. I love the ability to be in the moment. I love the ability to react to things that are going on in real time, and that's an aspect of the show that I've been missing for a while. So I'm very excited about that. So more details to come. We are planning a big show for September 13th. Actually, every show is big, but because we're changing formats and changing times, we're going to make this one a little bit bigger. But keep it locked to our social feeds at New Theory Radio across all social platforms. Keep it locked to my social feeds if you want. It is at Nav Nanwa on Instagram and Twitter. Special shout outs to Amit Nanwa. Thank you again to him for coming on our segment earlier, in which we paid tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman. He is the man responsible for all of our graphics, so go send him a follow at colorblindphotography_. And last but not least, special shout outs to Dusty Loops, producer extraordinaire. He's back on Instagram, so go send him a follow. It is at Dusty Loops across all platforms. He is the man responsible for our theme song. R.I.P. once again to the late Chadwick Boseman. Let's continue to fight for justice for Jacob Blake, Breonna Taylor, and everyone else that's been affected by racial injustice. And just be kind to each other. Just keep working hard. It's been a long week for a lot of people, but let's continue to push through the best way we know how. Thank you again for tuning in, and you will hear all of us next time. Peace.
Hey, this is Jill from the Container Store.
Oh.
Is there something wrong?
I just thought a virtual designer would be a cool robot.
I could do a robot voice if that helps.
Maybe?
Hi, I am Jill. Let's design.
Nope, absolutely not. Regular voice, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not good at impressions.
Enjoy free virtual in-home closet design and up to 25% off closet systems with the Container Store's custom closet sale. The Container Store, where space comes from.
Sorry I'm late, everyone.
It's all right.
The meeting's just getting started.
Are you in your closet?
Yeah, it's the quietest place. Not the roomiest, though.
Getting closer with your closet these days?
That dinosaur costume behind you?
What? No.
The Container Store's custom closet sale is here to help with up to 25% off closet systems and free virtual in-home closet design.
Who wants Sean to put on the dino suit?
Really, guys?
The Container Store, where space comes from.